Good afternoon, my dear line leaders. Congratulations first on being elected to the post of district governor, and you have a very great year ahead because now you're at the pinnacle of leadership. I'm Sanclesh Das Katmandu, your faculty for the next 1 hour, and my session is on conflict resolution. As you all are district governors elect, you all have the responsibility of leading your districts. You have to manage all the activities, the service activities, everything. So this topic, this conflict resolution, because you all have already passed through the various club activities, club leadership, and also the district leadership. Now today, when we are talking about conflict, can you just write down what is the one sentence that comes to your mind when you hear the word conflict? Can you write down one thing, Binay? What comes into your mind when you hear the word conflict? One sentence?
It's a fight.
It's a fight. Okay?
Opinion.
It's a fight.
Different opinion.
Different opinions. Good. So there's fight, Binay says. There's Ramchandra, you're saying it's an opinion.
Disagreement.
Disagreement. Okay, so see, 3 people in this room, and you all itself don't have a single answer to what conflict is about. Conflict is something I totally agree with you, because I cannot now say that it's not a fight. I cannot say it's disagreement, because if I go into that, then there will be another conflict. So when we start off with conflict, we say that conflict is something that is omnipresent. It's something that is always present. It's there. There's conflict between man and man. There's conflict between man and society. There's conflict between man and organization. There's conflict between man and yourself also. You're in conflict with yourself also so many times. So when we talk about conflict, we need to understand that we cannot escape from it. Wherever we are, being a human being, being a part of society, being in the living ecosystem, we cannot escape from conflict. And as Binoy said, he said that conflict is a fight. Fight would, I think, be a rather harsh word. If you go to a very lenient word, then, as he said, Gopal, that disagreement. But again, disagreement is a very lenient word, because when things arise, conflicts leads to deaths also. So it's not only a fight, it's a disagreement, but the positioning is different. And the best way that conflict can be overcome, there have been many theories on how to overcome conflict. But one thing that most people have come to a conclusion is that conflict cannot be eradicated. Conflict can only be resolved to a next level, a win-win situation level, where everyone comes into a position that they feel that they have won. So in that situation, because you are a district governors elect, you all have to understand that as a district governor elect, you will be looked upon to mediate into a situation where there may be conflict between your club members, clubs, or between service activities, between the district and the clubs. So you will be looked upon as someone who is neutral. You will be looked upon as someone who is very pragmatic and unbiased. So we may need to mediate, and that is why I guess you are here in part of this session on conflict resolution. The third is, there is a tendency that people may think that conflict should be avoided. Why bother about it? If it's a conflict between 2 clubs, let them solve it out. If it's a conflict between 2 members, let it be on them. They'll do it on their own. Why are we brought into this? But as a leader, you cannot see that. As a leader, if you are requested, if you are to run your club or run your district on a very successful basis, you have to understand that you have to take everybody on board. And in that, you have to take some action. And that is why, just listen to this, and it's beautifully said. Albert Einstein says that in the middle of difficulty lies the opportunity. And that is collaborated with this beautiful Chinese symbol of conflict, where there are 2 characters to the word conflict. And you know, the beauty of this is that one character, if you segregate that, one character denotes danger, whereas the other character denotes opportunity. Look at the contrast in the characters if taken individually, but when combined together, it's conflict, which means that conflict is not always bad. Okay, as I said, it's a fight, it's disagreement, it's an opinion, it's an opinion that is different from the others. So we are all talking about negativity, right? Fight, difference of opinion, disagreement. But no, conflict is not always bad. Because through conflict resolutions, many hidden problems are solved. Many hidden problems are solved. Because the underlying current that I don't like this, the underlying current that the things should be done in this way, service activity should be done in this way, membership recruitment should be done in this way, our presentation should be done in this way. There is this underlying thing that many hidden problems are solved. Also, when a conflict arises and if it is properly resolved, it leads to an increased understanding. Understanding of awareness that people in the conflict situation, they tried to know about themselves. They tried to understand the group that they are working with. They're understanding the other's point of view. We are always bothered about my point of view, and we are in the notion that it's either my way or no way. But no, if we are trying to work in a group, if we're trying to work with a group dynamism, we have to understand the other points of view also. So when a conflict is resolved, sometimes we try to understand ourselves also, and that increases our self-knowledge. It increases our self-knowledge because you become more aware of what you're thinking. Maybe your opinion that just now Ramachandra said is maybe right. You can convince the other person that your opinion is right. Or sometimes you can get convinced by the other person's opinion that yes, I was wrong in this, you're right. So in that context, conflict should not be always taken to be something that is negative or something that is bad. But as I said, conflict is danger, conflict is an opportunity. So in an opportunity, conflict has these things that many hidden problems are solved. There's an increased understanding, there's better group cohesion, there's improved self-knowledge. But the other flip side is that if conflicts are not handled in the right way, if not handled properly, if you go on a biased way of trying to resolve a conflict, then it will lead to more damaging things in the future of your district. So district governors elect, you're the line leaders. You should understand that the damage could be where the members, the clubs, okay, they turn it into personal dislikes. Earlier it was a club event that they were opposing. Earlier it was an activity they were opposing. Earlier it was a rule they were opposing. Now it goes into a more different level, a more higher level where they oppose people now. That is why the teamwork can break down. You all are district governors elect. If you want your district to be successful, you need teamwork. The teamwork will disintegrate because they will feel that this district governor is not looking into resolving conflicts. He's just being a spectator to the conflict. And lastly, we are right now, as district governors elect, you may be well aware that our membership crisis is coming up. We are trying to bring in more people, more hands to serve. But if conflict arises, and remember, it's so easy when people talk negative and it flows in a very fast way. It's like a wildfire. Something good, you want to tell people, you have to tell them 10 times. But something bad, and you don't have to tell it. It just spreads. So what happens is that the talents may be wasted as people disengage, and the worst thing is that people leave the clubs, people leave the district, people leave the Lions movement. So today, when we talk about conflict, as Gopal had rightly said, there's a term called disagreement. That's why in the beginning when he pointed out disagreement, I felt a little relieved that at least this word is going to come up. Disagreement versus conflict. I want to ask you, okay, Gopal, you said disagreement. What's disagreement? Now you know that it's not conflict. Because I'm trying to differentiate between conflict versus disagreement. So what do you think is disagreement?
Disagreement is that I'm not happy with the
Okay, not being
procedure
happy.
treatment.
Not being happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I don't want to measure the happiness index, but okay, not being happy. Ramchandra.
New ideas being not encouraged.
New ideas not being addressed. New ideas being not addressed. Okay? Not being addressed. Okay. What else?
Different thought processes.
different thought processes. Okay, we are talking about different thought processes. And Binay, if you could elaborate a little bit on what generates thought processes. What generates a thought process?
Our past experiences.
Past, good, very good. Our past experiences, or even experiences that we are currently facing, or only past. What else? What thought process? What generates a thought process? When something comes into your mind, what is the reason that things come into your mind? Experiences? Only?
That is what? Pretext.
Pretext. Okay, pretext. Anything else? Anything else? Ramchandra had said something about conflict.
Difference of opinion.
Good. See, I'm going to take you back to that word. Difference of opinion. And we need to understand that disagreement that happens is because of the difference of opinion. Okay? Disagreement happens because of difference of opinion, and it is based on, as Vinay had said, thought process. And a thought process is based on experience, very rightly said. But not only experience, it is also based on interests. It is based on values. It is based on your norms. And these values, these interests, they combine together to form an attitude within you. Your attitude is based on your norms, your values, your beliefs, your culture, your experiences, everything. And that which we expose to our society, to our organization, to individuals, becomes our behavior. So, when difference of opinion is created, and that difference of opinion reaches to a next level, because when there's just a difference of opinion, it's positive. Because I could disagree with you. It's but natural, because we are all individuals, right? We cannot say that you have to like my opinion, you have to tag along with my opinion. I can at least respect your opinion. But when a conflict situation arises, it goes to the next level. And that next level is where conflict differs from disagreement because of the outcome. Disagreement is opinion, but conflict is on that disagreement, what were your stand? Till what level did you take that disagreement? And was that disagreement to the level of, as Binay said, to a fight? Because that fight is negative. That fight is a negative outcome. If there's a tussle of opinions, it's disagreement. Because you're fighting on a mental level. But if that goes on to a physical level, or even a mental level where I don't like you, you don't like me, I leave the club, I leave the district, then it goes to a next level, and that is where negative outcomes come. So, as you rightly said, not being happy, new ideas not being addressed, different thought processes on the basis of past experiences or difference of opinion is disagreement. But that disagreement, when it reaches out to a negative outcome, it becomes conflict. So today, the session objectives that I am going to present to you is, we are going to recognize the causes of conflict. We define conflict in a small way, but just defining conflict is not the solution to resolving a conflict. Conflict is there, I know, but then just staring at it and looking at it and not bothering about it is not how you resolve conflict. So, recognizing the causes of conflict, applying the interest-based relational approach to conflict, and thirdly, explaining LCI's dispute resolution process, because we are Lions, there is a guiding procedure that the LCI has formulated. So our session objectives will be these three things. Now, I'd just like to point out to you. What is this?
6.
Correct? Is it 6? Or is there something else?
Reverse 9.
No, I'm asking what is this?
This 6.
This 6, right? So if I take this and I show it to you this way, it's 6, right? I don't reverse it. Now this is 6 from my point of view and your point of view, because this is what you've understood. But suppose I show it this way. I show it this way to you. What does it become?
0.
6? It's still 6, right?
Yeah.
Because you're seeing it this way. But when I reverse it, what happens?
Change.
For me it's 9. For me it's 6. But for you it's.
Nice.
But now, if I continue to say that this is 6 for me and you continue to say that this is 9 for me, there's a disagreement. But where do I lead this disagreement to? Where I tear up this paper and I start fighting over it and say, no, you also go with your view, I go with my view, and I don't care about it, then this is conflict. Okay? So, friends, as Lions leaders,
This is a fight.
this is a fight. Okay? And that is the worst form of conflict. So that is why, let's hear from you now. When you talk about causes of conflict, okay? You may have now tried to get a little bit overview of what the causes of conflict are. So let's see why conflicts happen in the districts. Why conflicts happen in Lions activities or Lions clubs. Why conflicts happen between line members and line members, between the office bearers and the line members. Why conflict happens? Can you just point out some causes of conflict?
Vested interests.
Vested interest, very good. Vested interest.
I may be in my right way, other person may be right way.
My way is right. My way is right. Anything else, Gopal? Vinay? Anything else? You can chip in many things. Just feel free to say whatever things you want to say about what causes conflicts.
Opinion difference.
Opinion difference, good. Anything else?
Political interest.
Political interest. Now you're coming up. Now, my friends. Please refer. You've come here a long way to become a district governor elect. I don't think so. It was a cakewalk, right? You fought so many battles. You're still fighting so many battles. You're trying to win over people. You're trying to win over all the past, your
Prejudiced minds.
prejudiced minds. Okay, good. Prejudiced minds. Anything else, please? Okay, prejudiced mind. My way is only right.
My way, right here.
What else? What else? Gopal, come on. You're not coming up. You're just happy that now you're district governor elect, right? Okay. What else?
Yeah, it is true that at times
Mm-hmm.
protocols and being
Great.
not being taken care.
Great protocols. Yes. People
Not
you know,
follow protocol.
not follow protocols. Okay, and then there's difference of opinion as to how to follow the protocol. Okay, as they say, even in law, there are 9 ways of explaining one simple statement, and the lawyers explain it in their own ways, right? So it's
Interpretation.
Interpretation. Good. Protocols. Then there is interpretation. Again, I would link it to my way is right. Okay.
It can
So-
be also,
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't like a person.
I don't like the person. Perfect. Okay.
For any
Yes.
reason.
Personal. It becomes too personal. Okay. Maybe the grandfathers had a fight.
Yeah.
You know about it, and you as grandchildren still are fighting, but you do not know what the grandfathers fought for. But still, you grudge the person.
At times, I may not like a person for it. No reason.
No reason. Exactly. First impression, last impression, never the good impression.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Now, these are the things that you have mentioned. What are the causes of conflict? Let's look at the causes of conflict first. There are first the interest or the values are challenged. That's the first cause of conflict. The second is that the needs are not met. As I said, we are all humans. Our drive, our motive is based on needs, desires, demands. These are the ways that we move ahead. Thirdly, the power or authority is challenged. You're going to be district governors now in a few months' time. After your installation, you will feel that after this hard journey of going through all the politics of becoming a district governor, now for this one Lionistic year, I am the authority. Or the club president may feel the same way. The zone chairpersons, the region chairpersons, all in authority will feel the same way. So power and authority is challenged and misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding. Yes.
Okay. So going back to these 4 that are mentioned over here and that which you have written. Now let's tally what links up to which. So vested interest,
Interest, yeah.
interest or value is not challenged. See, that's what you came up with. Then my way is right. Power or authority is challenged. I am the district governor. I am the club president. Follow me or leave. Okay. Opinion difference. Where do you keep it? Opinion difference. Misunderstanding. Okay. You can keep it in misunderstanding. Political interest. Again, needs not met because my interest is different from your interest. And then prejudice mind. Again, interest or values are challenged or misunderstanding happens. Protocols, power, authority challenged. Interpretation, it's all about misunderstanding. And lastly, it becomes too personal. Vinay had lastly said, well, I don't like the person at all, for no reason or rhyme. Then what happens? It's because of all these 3 and 4 combined. So, causes of conflict could be on the basis of interest or values challenge, needs are not met, power, authority challenge, misunderstanding. Please can you refer to your participant manual on page number 1. On your participant manual, page number 1, there are the causes of conflict mentioned over there. So if you could just go briefly through that participant manual where the causes of conflict have been defined for you. It has in the page number 3, page number 1, the interests or values are challenged. Gopal, can you just read out the first? It's on page number 1.
Yeah, page number 1.
Participant manual. Okay, Vinay, this as he is.
Conflict occurs when a person ignores, challenges, or misinterprets another's interests and values.
Great, that's what we just said. Okay. Number 2, Vinay, continue.
Needs not met. Conflict occurs when needs are ignored, obstructed, and not recognized.
Great, that's what you all also chipped into it, came up with. Third,
Conflict occurs when a person exerts control in an area where another claims authority.
exactly, you'll be facing lots of it, okay, in the future as district governors, as leaders. And lastly, I'd like to request Ramachandra, because you had come up with this in the beginning also. So last misunderstanding, can you just read out?
Conflict occurs when a person fails to look at things from another point of view or fail to get the big picture of the situation. Misunderstanding is a major cause of conflict.
See, so beautifully put. You miss out on the big picture. Okay, it's like, the camera. Look at the lens of the camera, it's so small. You need to put it near to your eyes. But when you put it to your eyes, look at the view that is captured. So in conflict resolution, you have to understand, my dear friends, like leaders, that you should not be myopic. You should not have that small picture in mind. Elevate yourself, grow, and let your big picture overrule all the small pictures that you have in your mind. Let this big mind overrule the small minds. And then when these things happen, misunderstandings will always be removed, and that through the eradication of misunderstanding, my dear friends, conflict can be resolved. Okay, so basically you've understood what are the causes of conflict. Now, the steps of how conflict can be resolved. See, as I am a practitioner, I teach in universities, human resource management, also I'm faculty at a university. And whenever we deal with students, there's one thing that we frequently I tell my students when I take my introductory class of human resource management. There are 2 things that are pertinent to management these days. 2 things which are the biggest challenge of management these days. First is knowledge management, and the second is change management. These 2 things are happening so rapidly. Knowledge is expanding so rapidly. We are now into the AI age, the artificial intelligence age, and change is happening so fast, you do not even can grasp the change that is happening. So because of that, there are various many ways of how theories have been developed of how conflict can be resolved. But today we're going to talk about 2 theories. Basically, I'm going to talk about one theory, but I'll just give you an overview, a brief about the other theory. That is the Thomas-Kilmann theory. Now, when talking about the Thomas-Kilmann theory, we have to understand that the Thomas Kuhlman theory is a theory which was put forward by two people, Kenneth Thomas and Ralph Kuhlman. Now, this Thomas Kuhlman theory is a theory based on two premises: assertiveness of people and cooperativeness of people. It said that whatever activity people perform, they perform on two premises. One, they assert, they want their way. Or the second type is, no, let's do it together. Okay, so there's the assertiveness and there's the cooperativeness. So when we talk about the Thomas Kuhlman theory, there are 5 different styles of conflict. It's competing with each other, it's avoiding each other, it's also about accommodating, collaborating, and compromising. Okay, so I'm not going to go into the details of this, because if you want to know more details about this, in our Alliance Learning Center, okay, you can go to my LCI, the Alliance Learning Center, and there's an online course you can do it on that, because that requires lots and lots of your practical input and situation, this thing. So I request you that after this training session is over, because you're a district governor-elect, you'll have to understand the various theories of how conflict is to be resolved. In the Alliance Learning Center, you can go there and you can do your online course.
I'm already done.
Oh, good, Binay. Very, very good. That's perfect. That's perfect. You can share your experience with the other friends after this session is over. Okay, Binay? So, but today we're going to talk about the interest-based relational approach. This is a theory that we are going to talk about a little more, and through activities, through role plays, we're going to explain it in a wider term. The interest-based relational approach was a theory that was put forward by Roger Fisher and William Ury. They said that your role as a leader is not simply to resolve conflict, but to ensure that people feel respected and understood. The premises on which this book was written, getting to yes, negotiating agreement without giving in, on the basis of which the interest-based relational approach theory has been put forward as a very useful tool of conflict resolution, is on the premises that you have to separate the person from the people. The person from the problem. See, what happens normally is that when a conflict arises, a person may be very good, but his opinion may differ, right? Till yesterday, he was with you. He was in your campaign team, Binay, and he was voting. He was casting his vote for you. He was your campaign leader. He was requesting so many people, and for Binay, he was the best person. But today, he says that, Mr. DG-elect, I think in your term we should do this. And then you feel that, why is this person trying to now guide me? Or is he trying to push me? Should I listen to him? Why? But that person may be still the same person. He's come up with something to tell you which you may not like. Now, till yesterday he was a campaign manager and he was good to you. Just because today there's something that he says which you do not like, the person is not bad. His opinion, his thoughts process that he has put forward may be challenged. So that is why this theory basically states that the way in which we accept conflict has to be modified. The bigger picture has to come in. Separate the person from the problem. Don't be biased that that person is having a grudge against you, and that's why the problem is coming up. So in that context, we need to understand that this approach is based on the idea that the role of a leader, you are a leader. Now, the role of a leader is not to simply resolve the conflict for now. It should be something that is a legacy. Yes, permanently. Something that does not reoccur again and again and again and again. Because if it occurs again and again, it's like, basically, suppose you have a headache, Gopala. What do you do? If you have a very severe headache and let's say fever, what do? You take paracetamol? Yes, you take paracetamol, right? That's the basic thing. But paracetamol, it cures the headache for 4 hours, 5 hours. Again, that headache persists, right? Again, that headache persists. Again, you take after 6 hours another paracetamol. But suppose that headache continues for
then you have to find out the root cause of it.
Exactly. Then you have to find the root cause of it. And when finding the root cause of it, as I was talking about right now, the allopathic way of treatment, which is instant, then you go to other Ayurvedic, natural therapy, homeopathy, which goes into this thing. So you've got to go into the root cause. So this theory, the interest-based relational approach, is also trying to help you to get into the root cause of why that conflict arises. And once it is resolved, it should never come back again. Okay, so on that basis, there are certain guidelines on the basis of which this interest-based relational theory has evolved. And as I said, and you all are district governors, please be aware, dear line leaders, that your leadership position is very, as I can say, is in a very thin razor edge, because this side or that side, and you're gone. You have to understand that. You have to balance. Okay, you have to balance. And that balance can only occur if, when conflict arises, what stand did you take? How did you resolve it? What is the opinion that people had about it? So in that, there are certain guidelines that we need to understand. Firstly is, make sure that good relationships are a priority. Okay? Separate people from problems. Now, making sure that good relationships are priority. A very beautiful word that has been said. See, these days, if you remember, have you ever taken loans from banks? Yes? Earlier, the person who used to give you loans, what were they called? Loan managers?
Yeah,
Loan managers. These days, have you gone to a bank to take a loan or your credit card or something like that? What are they referred to as these days? Relationship managers.
Relationship manager.
Look at the word. The position is the same. He's still going to bother you about paying your EMIs and this and that and everything. But why a loan manager, a designation given earlier, is now relationship manager? Because loan manager was something like a loan shark, something a little bit negative. Okay, he's forever bothering you with paying your EMIs and this and that, you're not paying on time and this and that. But a relationship manager is who's building on the trust factor, who's building on the credibility factor. Okay, so see, the first thing is that make sure that if there's a conflict that arises, that don't let the relationships go sour. Don't break the relationships. Just because someone has come up with an opinion that is different from you, or someone is bothering you with certain activities which you are not interested to do, does not mean that that person is bad. Okay? It's just that his opinion should also be heard. So don't break up the relationship immediately. Don't think him as an enemy. Remember, there's this ostrich syndrome. Okay, there's an animal called ostrich, and that ostrich, what it does is that when it sees an enemy, it has a long neck. If you've seen an ostrich, it has a long neck. So it is said that when an ostrich sees an enemy, it closes its eyes and puts down its neck with the intention that if I don't see my enemy, the enemy will not see me.
Even the cat also.
Yes, okay, cats also do it.
Yeah.
But I've heard about ostriches.
Yeah,
Good,
these
good,
also right.
good,
You're also
Ramachandra, very good insight. Okay, so now, can you do that? Just because a conflict arises, can you close your eyes and just because I am not aware of conflict, so conflict will just pass away is not a good idea. So you have to make sure that good relationships are a priority. Separate people from problems. I've already said this is the premises on the basis of which the interest-based relational approach is done. Listen carefully to different interests. How many times you've heard many leaders telling that, please listen to understand, don't listen to answer. How many times you've heard this? Please listen to understand, don't listen to answer. We are already listening. And before the whole sentence is complete, we have already formed an opinion. And we are already there with an answer. And this causes what? That different interests are at different interests. That is why listen first, talk second. If you are going to be a good conflict resolutor, then you have to listen first, talk second. Set out the facts and the premises, the guidelines, the principles on the basis of which any conflict can be resolved is not on fiction. It's not on hearsay. It's not that someone said like that or like this. It's facts. What is it? If there are no facts, bring the facts. And then on that premises, you prepare your resolution grounds. And lastly, explore the options together. What happens is that sometimes conflict arises, conflict is heard, you listen to it very carefully, and you say, now go home, I'll decide what to do. It's not that way. You listen to it, and then you said, okay, now sit down. I've heard the facts. I've heard you all. I am totally aware of both the opinions, both the facts. Now, let's sit down together and what
Chart
can
out
we
the differences.
exist? Chart out the differences and chalk out the differences. Both. Chart it out
First
and
chart it
chalk
out,
it out.
then chalk.
Chalk it out. Great. So that is why, if you go on to your participant manual, page number 3, just refer to it. There are 5 core steps that are mentioned, which is the basis for your conflict resolution. Okay. So step number 1, Gopal, can you just volunteer?
Yes, set the scene.
Set the scene and read out what are the points mentioned over there.
Establish the ground rules.
Exactly.
Review and agree the interest-based relational approach guidelines.
Good.
Ensure everyone commits
To being
to
assertive
being assertive
without being aggressive. Okay, beautiful.
and being respectful,
Open and
open and cooperative.
great. Practice active learning skills. See, we have already talked about all this. And the beauty, the most takeaway word in that would be being assertive rather than aggressive. If it's assertive, it's a disagreement, it's opinion. But if it's aggressive, it's a fight, Vinay, as you said, okay, in the beginning. Second, Ramachandra, can you say the step number
step
2?
two.
Okay?
Gather information.
Gather information.
Before you meet to discuss the issue,
Okay,
ask the people involved to fully prepare their own position and truly try to understand what is motivating them.
good. And then,
Begin to understand the position of each person.
okay,
3. Plan for a great deal
of
of
discussion.
discussions based on mutual trust and honesty.
Perfect. See, mutual trust and honesty, that's the takeaway word over there. Unless and until that is not there, then it's always about, fights. But where there's a mutual trust and honesty, there'll always be compromise. There'll always be compromise for a win-win situation, not one losing and one winning. Okay. Third, a little quickly, if Binay, if you
Given
can
the problem, go through the list of issues and concerns and make sure each side has a solid understanding
Yes.
of what exactly is causing the problem and what each person needs for a win-win solution.
Good. The takeaway word is win-win situation, solutions. Step 4, can you help me to go ahead? Step 4.
Brainstorm possible solutions.
Okay.
Get everyone together to brainstorm ideas. Keep an open mind.
Okay.
Do not allow yourself or others involved to get so attached to a position or solution that creative ideas are cast aside. Remember that you are not aiming for a compromise situation.
Good.
You are looking for a novel solution that each side owns and is committed.
Perfect. See, you are not aiming for a compromise situation, because when you compromise, one side always feels that he's been left out, or he or she feels dejected. I had to compromise. Kya karum? Manta hi nahi tha. Something like that, But when you are looking for a novel solution, that each side owns it, and when an ownership happens, there is a bond, and that bond is lifelong commitment to work together. And lastly, negotiate a solution. See, if brainstorming does not result, now what happens is sometimes, see, a conflict resolution does because it happens, does not mean that it's a prescription like you take for a medicine for a headache or something like that. It's something that is pertinent and that it continues. So if for the first time, when through possible solutions also, after brainstorming, it does not arise, then the next thing that you can do is negotiate a solution. If brainstorming does not result in a solution, move on to the negotiating stage. Look for a win-win situation where there may be some trading of positions. However, the end result should be a win-win situation for both the sides. So ultimately, it's a win-win situation that should happen even in negotiating a solution. Okay, now, I would like to ask you all that after all these theories and all, you've understood interest-based relational approach. Can we do a small activity, a small role play?
Yes.
See, if you look at the practicing the interest-based relational approach, there's one scenario 1. Okay, there's that one scenario 1. Can I have 3 of you as district governor-elect? But right now I just want one district governor. Who's going to volunteer to become a district governor? There's a role of a district governor, there's a role of a guiding line, and there's a role of a club president. Anyone who's going to volunteer to become a district governor? Okay, Vinay, you've volunteered to be a district governor. And what would you be? A guiding line or a club president?
Guiding line.
Guiding line. And Ramachandra, okay, by default you are the club president. I give you 2 minutes to just go through the scenario. Please read the scenario.
Which
And
page is it?
it's on page number 4, participant manual, page number 4. Okay, scenario 1. If briefly, quickly, can you go through that scenario where there is a well-meaning guiding line which continues to play a prominent role in the club beyond the reasonable guiding period. Well, after the club has been established and is functioning fine on its own, the club officers and members ask you to tell the guiding line to pull back and let them run their own club. This is something that you'll face when you become district governors. Be sure, my friends. So, district governor, you have to resolve the conflict. Okay? guiding line, please read that.
Yeah, I understand.
And club president. So
More
three of
involvement.
Gopal, can you come here?
Before
can
that-
you come here? Okay, carry your chair and come here because.
Before that, just to clarify my question,
Yes,
is that guiding line is over involved in my club?
Yes, exactly. He is helpful. He's helped to open up a club,
More
but
helpful.
now more than
Extra
helpful.
helpful.
Okay, so can we just have a role play
Yeah.
done where you
Yeah.
as a district governor, you know the situation.
Yeah.
So please, can you start? Can you start it on this thing? Okay.
Yeah, first, sir, with the due respect to our guiding line, he is helpful, but sometimes he is making some issues also, because of our involvement, it is becoming a little problem for me.
Don't say that, Ram. I have struggled a lot to bring up this club right from the beginning. I am the guiding line.
Just a minute.
Don't say that mine is a war intervention.
So as a governor, I would just like to listen to him, whatever he has to say, then I'll come to you, and then we'll have a discussion.
Sir, if you have any issues, definitely I will have no hesitate to take his help.
But in what
But
ways do you feel that
everything
he
is going
more
well.
involved in it?
Again, he is calling to the members, calling me, what is this and all these things, asking information for.
How will you say that everything is going
Just-
smooth?
Gopal,
No, if any issues are, I would have come. Why should he involve in it?
You mean to say that you know whatever is available?
Available and
Don't-
it is club and the members we've been sponsored recently have been come attending, involved in the service activity. They are good people. Still asking for the information, how many clubs meeting here they come, whether they involved
So
in the.
how many years the club is into existence?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
So already you have 5 past presidents.
Yes.
And you feel that you don't require his involvement.
No, we require it. In case we need it, any problem, definitely we take his guidance. When everything is going smooth.
So you want to
You
you want
is
him
not-
to interfere whenever you want to ask him something.
Not that, sir. Any issues, definitely I have no hesitation to go to him.
Yeah.
But unnecessarily, he should not come and poke us. That's what I'm telling you.
I'm not quoting, I'm trying to guide
If
the club
members are not
in a
attending,
better way, what it's supposed to be.
no, I'm clearly telling, in case my members creating any problem, I would have told and taken his advice.
There are some certain
now-
new
When there is no
members.
issue, sir, one thing I can tell
As a
you,
governor-
without fever, you are going to take a tablet, paracetamol, it's like that.
So I have understood the problem on either side. And yes, we can say that there is a communication gap. And so there is a problem. So we have to come to some kind of a solution. So do you agree first that yes, there is a problem with the club?
Yeah, yet to-
As this is being repeated by many of the past persons also, that there is over involvement of the guiding line. So to come to a solution, let's brainstorm. What do you feel that what should be done?
Sir, let him come once in a 3 months, every quarterly, or this thing we'll give the report of.
How do you say, let him come, it is my club, I have established it, I have taken a lot of struggle to bring up this club.
Sir,
So-
great.
So let us
Giving
rephrase
a
the
buck to
sentence.
child is your job, sir. That it's over.
So let us rephrase.
We have been grown up now,
Don't
standing
say,
on our
don't
legs.
say let him
I
come.
don't want anybody's this thing.
Say you will come.
We'll respect you. As a
So
guiding
you
line, we
will
have
come.
due respect to you. But you should not unnecessarily come and.
No, it is not unnecessary, wherever there are lapses, I am coming and.
So
That's what I'm telling, there is no
let-
lapses.
so
If
let
it is
the
there,
club-
definitely I'd have been asked you to help
So
us.
respectfully, you call the guiding line whenever you need him. You call him for your certain meetings,
Yeah.
residency visits. Let him know. Give him a statement of whatever is happening in your club, so that he will be relieved that yes, the
Even
club
in
is-
charter nights, they are not involving
club
me.
is functioning.
Yes,
as per
we'll do
his
one thing, sir.
requirements.
Next meeting we'll call, we'll have interaction with all the members.
And
and
as
solve
a
that.
guiding line, he is
I'll
also
call
answerable.
him, he'll also all will
He has to
interact with
send
the members.
reports to the
And
international
anything is there, definitely he can assist us or advise us.
So
Thank
can we
you.
shake hands now?
Thank you,
So
sir.
definitely,
See
we'll
you
work
at the
together.
next
Sure.
meeting.
Great. Thank you. I know now your districts are in very safe hands. Okay, because such great line leaders who've understood perfectly the steps that, or the steps that to be followed to setting up this activity. And I didn't need to interfere, I didn't need to get into, we all played it so well. I was thinking like it's a real life situation, it's not a role play at all. Thank you very much, Ramchandra, Abhinay and Gopal. And see,
So it
I was,
was
as
good
y'all
government.
were, as y'all, yes sir?
The governor was a good governor.
Very good, Governor. Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that, and congratulations again. See, as y'all were playing the role, I was noting down some of the points that were happening, because the role play activity should be based on what we had just discussed earlier, okay? These were the 5 things that we discussed. We had to set the scene, then gather information, agree on the problem, brainstorm the possible solutions, and negotiate a solution, okay? And that was mentioned, and Binay, you did it perfectly, and you all did a perfect acting as well. I know you'll not face this type of situation, but you all did. See, first the setting of the scene was done, because the governor took the responsibility to listen to both, because he said, I want to listen to both. That was the key word that he used, where he set the scene. Secondly, he asked to the club president, how many years has it been? He was gathering information, because if it had been just 1 year, then it would be the guiding line has the authority to interfere in everything, because you have right to do it. For 2 years, right?
2 years.
For 2 years he has the right. But when he said 5 years, then he was gathering information. And then the third point, agree on the problem. How did he do it? See, he made both of you, he first used a very positive word that, okay, I understand both of your point of view. And that there is a communication gap which needs to be resolved. And then ultimately, do you agree to that? He asked both. He did not say you have to agree. Do we agree to that? And that do we agree to that became a solution which was brainstormed, where there was a certain reservation from the guiding line, but still it was brainstormed, and in the next meeting, the club president agreed to have the guiding line put forward his viewpoint. Perfectly. Thank you very much for this activity that you have done. And again, I want to reiterate that you set the scene, you gather information, you agree on the problem, you brainstorm possible solutions, and this time it was not there. But suppose if it had gone haywire, if the first meeting does not happen, if the second meeting does not happen, sometimes it does not happen. You cannot say that just there's a conflict that has arisen and in a first meeting it will get solved. You have to have negotiations done again and again. And yes, you're having a query? No, okay, good. Now, as Lions, we have to understand that we are an international club. We follow protocols. Remember, someone said earlier that why do conflicts arise, and there was one term called protocol that you all wrote. Okay, it happens because of protocols. So, because it's an international organization, we have to follow the protocols. And in following the protocols, if it's the best, district governors, it's the best for you to solve your problems at home. The club level conflict should be solved at the club level. The member level conflict should be solved at the member level. The district level should be solved at the district level. But if that does not happen, if suppose the conflict goes to a new height, then there is the club dispute resolution procedure that is to be followed. I want you all to be very, 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 very attentive on this, because you all are district governors elect now. Okay? A rule is a rule because it is a rule. That's the premises of it. So there are certain things that are, anyone over here, you all are now district governors elect. Are you aware of this club dispute resolution procedures? You're aware, Gopal? Okay, good. Binay, you're aware of it? Ramchandra?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So it will be easy for me to talk about this. Refer to your manual, page number 5.
Yes.
Okay? Go through it. This is the first step where you file a written request with the district governor. But filing a written request with the district governor just does not mean that any Tom, Dick and Harry can come and file this thing. It has to be based on a certain event that has happened. Yes, and that event that has happened within 30 days. You cannot come to a district governor, you are being a district governor elect for 2018-19, and someone comes up with a redressal that he had a conflict in 2002-3.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days, very good. Within 30 days, if that is to be done, then the procedure of this filing a written request to the district governor happens. But not only by filing, there is a certain charge for it. If you refer to your person manual, the charge is $50. But if the district has so decided, the charges can be higher, but not higher than $250. Okay, so the basic charge is $50, and that not higher than $250. Okay, that is how the first way in which these things are done. Second step is the district governor appoints a neutral conciliator. Now, what happens is that when after you paid the fee and all that, then after that thing is the complaint is received, firstly the district governor gives it to the other person on whose complainant it has happened, and he waits for his response, and it's given 15 days to respond. But if that does not happen, and within that time, because the conflict is there, within that time the district governor appoints a neutral conciliator. Third is, now suppose the district governor is on one side. He's biased. He's biased. He's opinionated. He takes the complaints and puts it in a drawer and forgets about it. Then what happens? See, it's there on step number 2 that if the governor, once he receives it, he has to, within how many days? 15 days. Okay? Counselor. And then that has to be reported to the headquarters, LCA headquarters. And then after that, the conciliator arranges a meeting of the parties. And it's exactly like the role play that you all had just done.
Yeah,
okay?
yes, we are done that.
You all did it. Okay? And then after that, what happens is that on the basis of all this, the district governor is given after a report by the conciliator as to the possible outcomes or possible win-win situations that has arisen, okay, where both the parties have agreed to it. And if not agreed to it, maybe you need to go to the next level of, again, handling that conflict resolution. So, Ramachandra, step number 1, club dispute resolution procedure is you file a written request with the district governor by paying a fee. And the written request with the district governor should be how many days within which the event has occurred? 30 days, not more than that. Okay, if it's after that, then you don't need to take in the conflict resolution. But although it says 30 days, sometimes even if it's 35 days or 45 days or 2 months, take it in. Take it in, because you don't want something to linger, right? Okay, just because you have 30 days, it's not a court of law. We are all service organizations. We are people. We want people to come into our organization. It's not arbitrary that the judge proclaims this decision and you have to find it. Okay, but still, a law and a rule is to be followed. 30 days. Pay the filing fee, $50.
Yeah.
The district can have their own fee charged, but not more than $50. Good. Step number 2, Ramachandra. The district governor appoints a neutral conciliator. Within how many days?
15 days.
15 days. If not, then you can write to the international headquarters and they will do the other necessary things. Step number 3, the conciliator arranges a meeting of both the parties within how many days now? 15 days. And then how many days is it given to sort out the problem? It's also mentioned over there. Within 30 days. Okay? That has to be solved. He cannot say, okay, now both the parties have been called, now I'll take my own sweet time to resolve. It has to be within 30 days. So, dear district governor-elect, you are the leaders of tomorrow. Remember, a good district is that district that has a very, very cooperative, collaborative clubs, members, and you can be an example for all to follow. Remember, conflict, as I started earlier, it could be danger, it could be opportunity. In everything that we do, we cannot escape from conflict. We can just adhere to conflict. We have to understand that conflict arises because there are difference of opinions, there's disagreement, and that leads to, if not handled properly, to a fight, to a war. Okay? And then war is just destruction. Fight is just destruction. We don't want that in the districts. So ultimately, today, in this session, I tried to cover these objectives. Did we recognize the causes of conflict? If you recall, what were the causes of conflict? Exactly. Then what were the causes of conflict that we just wrote? Need-based conflicts, value-based conflicts, authoritative-based conflicts, and because of misunderstanding. Okay. Then we talked about 2 theories, the Thomas-Kilmann theory and as well as the interest-based relational approach. I talked to you that Thomas-Kilmann theory, you can do it on your, because it's of assertiveness and cooperativeness. But we went into a detail about, did we go into the detail of interest-based relational approach? Where we said that there are steps to follow it. We set the scene and up to brainstorming and again creating a negotiation situation. Did you do it?
Yes.
Have you fully understood it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. And lastly, I explained about the LCI's dispute resolution procedures. It's there in the manual also. You can refer to your ebooks also. You can refer to the lci.org websites also. It's there. And as district governors elect, it's up to you. You cannot blame anyone for what happens in your district in your tenure. You are the leader. You are, and most importantly, a social leader. So I hope through this session we have covered all these three. Any questions?
No, sir, it's very detailed one.
Okay.
We are happy.
Any questions, Gopal?
No,